next witness is Josh Crosier. Welcome, Josh.
Howdy. I am not knowing where to start, right? This room well covered a lot of these issues, so I can see that it's been documented what needs done here. So where should I start? I'm taking it that nobody up here knows who Dr. Raphael Meshulam, Dr. Ethan Russos, or Jeremy Plum is. I'm hoping I'm correct with that. So if you went to be a referee for basketball, even if it was biddy ball and you didn't know Bird, Magic, and Jordan, I get the challenges, the complexities that you guys are facing entering a scene that you really haven't put the due diligence in to understand where the culture is and where you guys kind of are collectively as people that presented Senate Bill 56. I'm Josh Crosier. I have a master's of science degree in sustainable agriculture. I'm an advisor at the Cannabis History Museum, and I started academia with my natural resources management degree at Hocking College in 2003. I've went full circle now to where I'm the cannabis co-director at Hocking College of the Capstone and Practicum program. And I just want to offer a little bit of insight from what I see. I see a market that's never going to be able to hold the black market down. And that's due to things like expanding the cultivation area for tier 1 and tier 2. Instead of opening this up to what consumers actually want, which is tier 3, right? Everybody started drinking Carlos Rosé because it was in a gallon jug and cheap, right? But we move on to that. And we expand. And what the black market offers that you guys are nowhere near on is craft, the quality. And you're producing a lot of flower that goes into edibles indoors when really the only energy allotment that I see useful in the cultivation of cannabis is with craft growing. Who's going to go pay these prices for some what they consider soulless cannabis when they can go out to an Athens and Meg's farmer where they've bought it for decades, where it's proven to be safe, and they can smell it? That's one of the main barriers here. Until you can smell the product, you're not really going to be able to eliminate that side of things. These people want taxed, by the way. They want to contribute to this market and haven't been able to enter that market. I think we need to think about the fantasies of the consumer when we're putting forth this type of legislation, right? I want complex fruits with phylloids and hints of pine in my flower. I want to be able to smell that. It's not just shove this down our throats and we'll take it, because then you're not eliminating that gap, right? And that gap brings financial opportunities to Ohio. Nobody's going to come here for cannabis tourism when what they're buying is some mass-produced, over-trimmed, beat-around buds. They're going to come here, though, when we start opening up these different autoclaves representative of different areas and soils that it's been produced in here for years. That's what's going to draw some impact from other states. Who's going to come here? I mean, we're not really opening the door for what's most important. The people that voted for this are majority consumers. So, you know, there's other things in the bill that obviously these guys have well covered. One of them I'd like to reiterate is us as hemp farmers at AppGirls Cannabis. What you're asking us to do is take a federally compliant product and stick it into a federally illegal dispensary. I can't get over this. I'm sorry. I just can't get over that. I think it's absurd, and I think that we need to stop worrying about how thick the pockets are, the tier 1, tier 2 players, and keep shoving down our throats product that we don't really stand behind. We want to know our farmers. We want to be connected to the companies that produce our products. So thank you for hearing me out. I would love to take a question.
Mr. Crosier, thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Ranking Member Isaac.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your testimony. What do you, I actually sort of don't totally understand, so maybe you can help explain why don't we allow outdoor grow? Like, what's been that debate? What's the sort of?
So there's the fear that a baby will get into the weed and roll around and get high, right? Like, we have grown cannabis. You could be a child and run through a cannabis field and have it all over you and not get high. And that's part of the complexities that I talked about. And I respect you guys for trying to take on this challenge. Cannabis is a very complex plant, and that seems like a hurdle, but really it's opportunity because of the complexities of this plant. You have so many different elements that work with everybody's endocannabinoid system different. But one thing that never happens is you can't touch weed and get high, no matter whose endocannabinoid system you're in. So I think there's also barriers that maybe Tim Johnson could speak on better with security reasons. But we create these security problems by continually trying to impose more criminal penalties for it, keeping that black market thriving when we should be trying to eliminate that gap.
Follow up. Representative Sonnenberg with the question.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Just to follow up on the last question from Rep. Isaacson, is there also, or is this a fallacy that outdoor grow can't be, it's not controlled as much environmentally as indoor, and when it rains, whatever chemicals are in the rain could get into the crop, et cetera?
I appreciate the question. Let's look at the other side of that, right? So we lose a little bit of control environmentally, but what? At the expense of our carbon footprint, the production of fossil fuels going in to heat a grow room. Do you know, like, you could have a 1,000-foot, I think it's like a 1,000-foot indoor grow room uses as much electricity as a Walmart. This is absurd, and there's no reason when you're putting it into edibles and lotions and topicals, you don't need all those flavor profiles like craft connoisseur people like us at the Cannabis Consumers Coalition care about. You're just doing that for the cannabinoids that plant contains. So why would we use these different light spectrums when we could get this source of energy for free?
Follow up? No. Representative Callender with question.
Yeah, a couple of questions, and thank you for your advocacy again, as with everyone here. And partially to answer your questions, the concept of making Ohio a cannabis tourism site is wonderful. I think everybody testifying here would probably agree with that. However, that's something to work on in the future, and there will be bills after this passes or doesn't pass to try to enhance that. But I would suggest that we put our efforts into decriminalization, making sure the money goes home and protecting the rights people passed first, and then working on that. We're kind of pretty far behind Colorado and Oregon and California. And I'm not sure the will of the voters is to make Ohio the travel destination for cannabis users. But it is clearly the will of the voter to make it legalized and not criminal. So I admire your efforts, but that may be better looked at another bill. And one of the concerns I want to ask you about as a grower, and one of the concerns that we've heard a lot as far as the indoor grow preference over outdoor grow, is the use of herbicides and pesticides and the potential impact those things would have on the final product. And one of the efforts and successes of our program so far is that when a consumer goes to a dispensary and buys a product, you know everything that's in there between our testing and our security and the seed to sale monitoring. How would you address that concern of the herbicides and pesticides? Not just I don't think it's just chemicals in rain or kids being exposed by running through. I think there's a lot of concerns about that element as well. How would you address that concern?
Well, I think Rodney Hash talked well about it earlier, but I guess I would address that by trying to open up that testing, not only for home growers, to where they can go send samples in, but I would also make the same standards apply, right? So out in Meigs and Athens, we coordinate with our farmers and our neighbors. So for instance, when the sheep farmer here knows that the corn farmer next to him is going to spray that day, he's able to move those sheep away. But there's obviously you got two plants in the way. You can't just move your plants, but you can communicate with people and find a way to work things out, because we've been doing that in agriculture for a very long time. And not only is that the nature of most farmers, but cannabis people even take that to more extremes, right? We have respect for each other and our communities that we live in. So I think those challenges are, and not to mention, when we consider all the herbicides and pesticides on our food that don't get tested as rigorously, how are the standards for cannabis so much higher than the standards for food? You could go swab a tomato and find all these same things on it. So I guess I do appreciate you calling me out about rambling about my fantasies. I know we're far from that point. I'm just like visualizing this deli style where you can walk in and actually let your olfactory system and your limbic system recall memories. Cannabis is an aromatherapeutic crop, right? So I'm fantasizing right now and feeling the effects of it. I can't wait to smell it without even consuming it. I want to be able to smell it, and I think that's what would, even if it's a decade down the road, that's where it needs to go to help close that gap between why would somebody not go to Athens where they can smell 20 different kinds of cannabis, pick it up, smell it, touch it, know that they want to buy it before they go spend $200 on a purchase in a bag that they can't see the product. They're just fed a whole bunch of deceit on the back, terpenes and minor cannabinoids, instead of what matters most, the olfactory system, the smells and aromas.
Follow up?
Thank you. And I think a lot of folks share that long-term vision, kind of like our analogous to our wine industry in Ohio, where we're slowly becoming more and more nationally recognized for what our soil can produce and our climate can produce, and our great fresh water, especially, not to detract from your area, but from Northeast Ohio. So I think that's a great vision in the future, and certainly would participate, but I just don't want to build expectations in this bill to get us there, because first we have to make sure we're not criminalized before we can get to the artistic phase, which hopefully we get to. On the herbicides, pesticides, other agricultural runoff issue, I assure you my concerns are not limited to cannabis, but also to the food we eat. And I think nationally we're near a crisis situation with that. So the concerns are not limited to cannabis, but that doesn't mean they're not legitimate concerns. Your tomato swab having all kinds of chemicals is a very good example of that. So thank you for pointing out it's not limited to cannabis.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.